warmly received by critics. His art, photography, and writing have been exhibited in galleries and museums internationally, examining many socially relevant themes, issues drawn from his own personal experiences as a pro athlete and growing up as a young black man in America. Aaron uses his public platform and artistic voice to advocate for racial and economic equality, arts education, and recreational youth programming in underprivileged communities across the country. In 2009, Aaron established Project Mayhem to provide aid, both personal and economic, to help underprivileged and at-risk youth excel beyond their current conditions. Through his work with Project Mayhem and as a teacher, Aaron has implemented art workshops and curricula into many schools in Baltimore City area that have had budget cuts due to lack of state funding. Aaron teaches creative arts and literacy in Baltimore public schools, created his art activism curriculum being taught in several Baltimore City schools, and also co-founded the Operation Heat campaign, raising over $90,000 for schools struggling with heating issues in the wintertime. Aaron is a Fox 45 Martin Luther King Jr. Champion of Courage Award recipient, Baltimore Arts Realty Corporation Executive Board member, and a member of the newly appointed Mayor's Transition Team serving on the Arts and Culture Committee. As an arts teacher in the city, he continues to advocate for public policy to see art programs restored in schools and more economic opportunities to be provided for the underprivileged people of Baltimore. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you.
Yes. And then also to introduce our moderator, Quita Chansey. Quita Chansey is a real estate investor, digital equity advocate, and owner of Xavier Estates LLC, a full-service real estate company. She also founded Small to More Homes, an affordable housing initiative that builds micro-shelters and tiny homes on vacant and blighted land. In 2018, Laquita designed a tiny home on wheels. Since then, she has built a 20-foot tiny home on wheels and 3 micro-shelters on wheels. Small to More Homes also hosts weekly wellness walks, monthly community giveaways, and financial literacy workshops while leveraging relationships with partner organizations. Laquita holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Sciences and a mathematics minor from Spelman College. Welcome, Laquita.
So, getting on code.
Yeah.
I thought this book was so dope, Aaron. Like,
really? Thank you.
Yeah. So as I was reading it, like I found myself saying, I've literally said those words before. Like that whole sentence, I felt the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm doing this for Black communities. And if other people show up, so be it. Like they benefit for it. But everything I'm doing is for the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that sometimes people have a problem with that kind of language. Can you tell me how you found your voice to like be confident enough to say those things that, you know, people don't.
That's a really interesting question.
Things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I know exactly what you're getting at because
like,
that like was actually what I wrestled with the most while writing.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is my 6th project. You know what I mean? It's not like this is my first, you know, attempt at, you know, writing a book, but this was something that for me, I felt like it was necessary and it was time for me to kind of share some of the thoughts and the ideas that have shaped the work that I do.
Right.
And the reason for that is like for years, people have always like kind of put me in leadership positions or looked to me for leadership, but that was never anything I sought out. You know what I mean? Like I've always resented the idea of anybody putting me up on a pedestal because I don't want the work that I do to be something that people see as separate from like the work that they need to be doing.
Right.
Like, you know, I don't want you saying like, yo, Aaron's doing a great job of like working to fix this. I want him to be like, yo, Aaron's doing this, but like, yo, what can I do? Like, you know what I mean? Like he's not connected to that. You know what I'm saying? Like what's my responsibility in this thing? I would want to be the person that inspires others to take charge, not a person that people say, oh yeah, he's one of the people that works on that.
He can, you know what I mean? He's those types.
But I'm also at a point now where for the first time, I actually feel like there's a proper balance in my life between my work, my time as a father, my position as a partner, my position as a role model, educator. Like, I don't feel like I'm taking from one area to give to another. I don't feel like I'm over exerting myself in one area and other areas are depriving. I feel like for the first time, I actually have some balance to all of that.
Okay.
And what's allowed me to get to this balance is the code that I abide by. You know what I mean? The way that I carry myself, the way that I see my role, not just in my household, but in my community. And then I started to ask myself, like, not even just me, like other friends of mine that look to me for, you know, advice on certain things, like the things that they're always asking me for is my code. You know what I mean? And
yes.
The same was as with any conversation. When you give your code, your reason for existence to somebody else, when they see your raison d'etre, they don't understand necessarily everything about it, but some parts of it might be agreeable to them. So similar with a conversation like that, I wanted this book to be something where I kind of laid out what those processes have been for me, what that journey has been for me, and hopefully some of those nuggets and some of the aspects of the code that I abide by can be something that other people in our community say, oh, well, let me take some of that and let me adopt that into my mindset. And even if I'm not giving you anything that you feel is necessarily fruitful, I hope that after each chapter in the discussion questions, you actually find what you do feel like your code should consist of. Because I didn't want this to just be a project where I positioned myself as somebody that was trying to be like the new thought leader on what we, you know what I mean? I just tried to position myself as somebody that's going through the same thing, just like everybody else.
More or less your perspective.
And I'm trying to approach things from a solution-based mindset rather than a position of trying to be right. You know what I mean?
Yes. And I saw that in the book, like you addressed all the different levels. You're like, hey, you know, there's a woman empowerment movement, and not to tell Black women what they should or should be doing, but
everybody's doing that right now. And it's just like that's not my opportunity to talk to Black women. That's my opportunity to talk to Black men.
As a Black woman, though, like who people are always like, you need to, you should. So
and that's not my place. And I think that more of us need to start understanding that that's not our place to tell Black women like what they need to be doing. Now, there are certain things that I did, even in that chapter, address with Black women directly. But I think that as with most conversations in this book, context matters, and the way that we approach these conversations matters.
For sure.
I'm not approaching this conversation trying to be right. I'm trying to bring a perspective that is rooted in us coming together.
Like to me, it sounded like someone who loved you. You know what I mean? Like, even not necessarily a partner, but maybe a father or an uncle, like
uncle,
someone
that big
trying to pour
homie,
into you. Listen to this and think about it this way. So I thought that was so dope.
Because that's the role that I serve for so many people. It's like, I'm an educator, I'm a big brother, I'm a mentor, I'm a friend, I'm a partner. So I don't want to be talking. One of my biggest problems with how we have a lot of these conversations and how discourse itself works is we talk at each other way too much. We don't talk to each other. We listen to respond and not listen with intent. Like and the love is usually missing. If I'm going to critique you, that critique should be cloaked in love.
Absolutely.
And if you can't feel it, then it's my job to do a better job of communicating. But I don't think that we do a good job of holding ourselves to that standard in a way that is cloaked in love. And
for sure.
I think that when it's not cloaked in love, you leave the space for us to be violently disagreeable or for us to be combative where we should be finding a way to see common ground. And I see that so much specifically between Black men and Black women. And I think that we're at a point where we can't allow that to happen anymore. Like, you know what I mean? If we're going to make it through this point, like at some point, some adults got to sit down at the table and say, yo, like, don't talk to each other like that. You know what I mean?
Like, be nice to each other.
Like your feeling is valid. Your feeling is valid. But why do you have to talk to each other like that? Where is this coming from? You know?
When you say that, it's like, my name is Laquita. People often have a hard time pronouncing it. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, as long as it's coming from a place of love, I almost don't care what you call me. Like you could not know how to say my name, but as long as it's coming from a place of love. And so I thought about that as I was reading this. It's like, oh, well, it's not, let's see who can hurt who the most or who has been traumatized the most. We're not comparing battle scars. We're actually, it was coming from a place of healing. And again, mentioned in the book, we don't often come from a place of healing. It's like, get through it, survive, and next thing.
And that's not, and we don't need to be judgmental
traumatic.
about that either, because being perfectly honest, when do we ever learn how to heal?
We don't. We don't.
I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah.
So if I don't know how to heal, not that I don't take responsibility for my actions, but you can't necessarily hold me to a standard of something that I've never learned or been exposed to or had proper proper context to know. Like, that's a learned behavior, just like how we express love is still learned behaviors. How people have expressed love to you is how you reflect it to others.
Yeah.
And the fact that so many of us have had to endure tough love, that becomes our only vantage point that we use to project it out into the world. So people look at how we love each other and they say the love is non-existent. No, it's there.
It's just
you're just not looking through our lens.
Right.
You don't know what we've been through.
Right.
You don't know the trauma that we're still trying to figure out how to heal from. And when you've dealt with all of that, the way that you love is a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And I'm not excusing it, but I'm saying if we're ever going to move forward, we have to be able to call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And we all have to stop acting so damn self-righteous and above. None of us is above anything. We're all just figuring this shit out. And I don't think that until we can admit that we can really like move forward.
Right. No, because to your point, I feel like as human beings, like, we have to understand that we are imperfect, and more than anything, like, we try to portray this perfectionism, and that is harmful. That can cause trauma.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it creates an unrealistic expectation. Like, I talk about that in the chapter where I'm saying we have to toughen up. It's like, I don't want you trying to be perfect for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to meet your dressed up representative. I want to meet the you that is unkept, that is, you know what I mean? Like, because as long as I'm dealing and I'm talking to your representative, neither one of us are actually getting to know each other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Most relationships
and when
are.
we're afraid, and when we're afraid to be our authentic selves because we're afraid of being judged or canceled or condemned, or no, I want to be wrong.
Yeah, I'm allowed to be wrong.
I deserve to be able to be wrong. Like, and it's not, and until I express myself, my authentic, truest self, not my made up, dressed up representative.
Right.
I don't have the chance to be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? What does me being my truest self when I walk into a room look like? Not trying to bully or step on anybody else's toe. Like, in order for me to be me doesn't mean that I have to make you less of yourself or demand. You know what I mean? Like, we can all show up as our authentic selves and appreciate what we all bring to the table.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can say that who you are is divine and beautiful. And when you walk into a room, you bring something into that room that I can't replace.
Right. Absolutely.
That can be completely right, as well as
you do the same in your own way on your own platform, and it's enough sunlight and stage and all of it for everybody.
And I think that all of these things are interconnected. Just as much as that can be true, the fact that all of us, there's enough for all of us. You know what I mean?
Yes, I totally agree.
We have enough to sustain ourselves within our community. We have enough talent. We have enough love. We have enough resources. We have enough opportunity. The problem is we have to connect those things.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the resources be there, but
they're spread out.
They're spread out.
It's like a highway in between
and they set it up to make you think.
They
set it up to make us think that we can't both have access to these resources.
Right.
It has to be you or it has to be me.
Right.
But what if we both came together and you said, yo, my plan encompasses this. And I'm saying, oh, well, my plan encompasses this. It won't be the exact same, but what if we put the best of my plan and the best of your plan together and we just use the same, you know what I mean?
Collaborate that way.
But we've been convinced that that's not going to work.
You got to fight over that.
Yeah, we got to fight over scraps. Nah. Like at a certain point, we have to say, does this mentality, this way of being and operating, does this serve us?
Right. Does it even make sense?
And I'm not even professing to have all the way my perspective is my perspective and I stand on it. But if somebody introduces a different idea that makes sense to me, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
But right now, I just don't see how that serves us at all.
I mean, of course it doesn't, but I feel like systemically, like they want us to fight. That's the purpose of it. But in the book, you talk about how to dismantle and undo that. So another thing I wanted to talk about is what you just mentioned is cancel culture and how it is affecting, Black communities. And for me, it made me think of two things. Like I will cancel anybody, but it's usually where my Black dollars are going, right? Like H&M.
But what is? I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but before you go into that tangent, what does canceling mean for you when you say I cancel people with my dollars? Because to me, that just sounds like a choice. I don't have to spend money with you. Me choosing to spend my money elsewhere isn't canceling you. No, in my mind, canceling means I don't want you to have a platform. I don't want you to be able to monetize your gift. I don't want you to be able to provide for your family. In my mind, that's what we do. That's what society does in the public square. When somebody says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing, it's like
fail.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, if they don't treat us good in this establishment, I don't have to go there. I don't have to spend money there. That shouldn't be something that is like this big, like public. Let's just not go. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, if it's something where a person has said this thing that I disagree with or I dislike, as an artist, I have a problem with us feeling like we can just deplatform people. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether I agree with what you have to say or not. Right. I'm a free speech guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm an anti, what do you call it? Regulation guy. Yeah. So. And I'll agree with that. Us moving into this space where we're just comfortable going along with people telling us what we can say and what we can, like, why are Black people championing this? Yeah. Right. No. You know what I mean? I agree with you because we will never be on the trigger pulling side of that. We're sitting in front of the barrel of whatever's behind that gun. It made me immediately think of like Will Smith and Chris Rock. Oh my God. And I wrote this before all that. I know, but that's what it made me think of. Oh my God. The discussions of like, because that's all I see, even on like LinkedIn, which is supposed to be, you know, super like businessy. I'm like, oh, so we still talking about these Black men on stage and like, so tell me again though, like walk me through why you think cancel culture affects us in such a negative way. Because we are not in the position to take anything from anybody except for our dollars. Correct. Or our eyeballs. Correct. So if we don't like somebody, don't watch their stuff, don't buy their stuff. Right. It's just that simple. Right. But you're not, who's the last person we demanded to get fired that got fired? Audience. I'll wait. Who's the last person we as a people have deplatformed? Who have Black people taken the platform away from? They were mad at Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Yeah. They were mad at H&M. You mad at Gucci? They laugh at us. Right. Because you still gonna go and you still gonna spend money and you still gonna buy, you know what I mean? And my thing is on the Joe Rogan tip, I don't want to know. I want to know what everybody's mad at. He said some shit you disagree with. And the thing about it was you listen to it out of context. I look at things in context. I actually listen to Joe Rogan because I listen to a lot of people who I agree with and disagree with. I'm not one of those people that tries to exist in a bubble where people only think like me and speak like me. And I need to hear ideas that go against my ideas because that's how you sharpen your sword. Right. You don't know what you stand on when you just hang and congregate and commune with people that agree with you. So the people that are like if you look at this person as the worst, I want to sit and I want to listen to this person's ideas. Right. I want to know how you got a whole following of people to follow behind these bad ideas. Because the thing about it is, even the worst people, the worst idea, like there's something to it. For somebody, there's a reason why people ingest it. There's a reason why people, and we don't spend enough time trying to figure out what that is. We're so concerned with our own perspective and how things affect us that we don't understand that our enemy is affected too. And the way that they're operating, we got to know where things are coming from. How they're shifting. And again, I'm a free speech guy. There's nobody that's going to censor how I say anything that comes out of my mouth or what I say out of my mouth. Right. I don't put myself in positions where I have people that I answer to in that front. So if I choose to get up here and I choose to be all the way ghetto streets of Baltimore version of me, that is my prerogative.
Right.
And I still demand your respect.
And people will accept that.
You know what I mean?
Because they have to.
So my thing is, if I walk through life with that agency and that audacity, I need you to have that same freedom.
Right.
I don't want you giving me your representative, because when you give me your representative, I don't know how you really think.
Right.
You could be giving me your representative, smiling in my face, and then as soon as you leave this room, you telling everybody I'm everything except a child of God.
Wouldn't do that.
So my thing is,
but
if that's who you are, I would rather you be that way from the second that we meet.
Yeah.
And I can still work with you. We can still get money together. We can still do everything that human beings need to do, because I know how I need to deal with you. If it's just a money play, then it's just a money play. It's just business.
Yeah.
If it's just an opportunity that is mutually beneficial, then it's just an opportunity that's mutually beneficial. Yeah. You can dislike me, I can dislike you, and we're fine.
Right. No, I mean, I feel that. Like, I often tell people I'm not one of those people who can do both. All the news stations, Fox News triggers me, but I like the idea of knowing.
But I watch it every now and again, though.
Like it said plain. It said
I don't watch Fox
English.
News on my TV, but when I see things scrolling on my timeline, I watch it.
Why? What's the difference between the TV and the timeline?
Well, I'll say it like this: the things that you like, you'll watch without censoring it, right?
Okay, right.
So you'll watch it at a full clip. And I do believe that you can radicalize yourself or cloud your own judgment by what you ingest. The same way as if I just sit here and I just eat fried food all day. Next day, I fried food. You're going to look at my body composition and you're going to see it change.
Right.
Why is it that we think that we can just ingest one thing? And we can just ingest one thing, one type of music, one type of thought, ideology, anything, even religion. If you believe, how do you know you believe what you believe? Have you studied anything else? Have you worshiped with anybody else? You know what I mean? Have you communed with anybody? Until you've done those things, I don't believe that you really believe what you believe. Until
you've seen other than that one thing that's the dominant
thing. Because once you've experienced other things, you'll realize we're all right.
Right.
You'll realize I would never worship a God that would give me priority of somebody else because I call him by this name and this person calls him by this name. We all want the same things from this divine God, this divine being. We all are required the golden rule in every single one of our religions. He wants the same things from us, or she wants the same thing for us. And bigger than all of that, it dwells within us. So when I call you God, when I call you Earth, I'm speaking to that divine thing within you. It ain't because I'm a 5%er. I'm a spiritual sentient being. We all are. And the sentient being within me is communing with the sentient being within you. And once we can get on that level, that goes beyond anything. That's metaphysical.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we need that that's what it really means to be on code. That metaphysical connection that centers what's best for us over what's best for me.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. And there was a part, I think, in here that you said something like gentrification is warfare.
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that a little bit more. As a real estate investor, I recognize that middle class Black families are really what's gentrifying a lot of Baltimore, but I feel like we can be responsible.
Can you say that again, though?
Oh, wait.
Can you say that again, though? I think if anybody is watching this, that is an important nugget.
Okay, so there's
a lot of middle class Black gentrification, especially from people that are not authentic to Baltimore.
Right. Yeah.
That is also contributing to the raising of these prices. And the thing that's nasty about it. This is the thing. This is where it gets nasty for me. That's why I say it again, because when it's regurgitated back to us in the communities that are being gentrified, it's being regurgitated back as this Black Renaissance.
Oh, okay.
We coming in with Black. We coming back in with Black dollars in it, but it's Black dollars from Oakland. It's Black dollars from Michigan. It's Black dollars from, and I'm not against that.
Right.
I'm not against that when it's done in a way that actually is beneficial to the community.
Right.
But when it completely contributes to the erasure of the community that my
existed.
ancestors.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
I got a problem. Like, again, context, there's a code. How we deal with each other matters.
It does. I'm not going to get too much into the gentrification because that's
it's a chapter. So if you want to talk about it, we can talk.
It's a dope thing. It's a dope thing. But I did want to say that Black families are like, huge gentrifiers. But I think that, as a real estate investor, people need to learn how to gentrify without displacing folks.
Right.
By bringing resources to the community. Let's talk to our seniors and tell them how to, lock their taxes in.
And that's the thing.
Are going to jump.
To piggyback on that point, a lot of people, when they just see the title, they think that the perspective that I'm coming from is everybody that participates in gentrification is the enemy.
Right. Okay.
In my mind, the enemy from a gentrification standpoint is erasure and capitalism.
Right. And those things can be...
And erasure and capitalism doesn't necessarily have a color.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Regardless,
you can be
of
Black and contribute to erasure. Yes. You can be Black and contribute to capitalism taking over an area. Anything where property and money is valued over people and community and social fabric. Yeah. Where I say I'm comfortable moving this group of people from over here, over there, where they have no
connections, no resources,
no social
ties.
Context within that area.
Doing? Yeah.
So regardless of how that's dressed up, it's bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, as you said, and that's what I love about what you're doing, even though I know you don't want this to be about you, is the fact that we have to look at models that serve us,
right? Absolutely.
That are progressive, that actually factor in cost of living, that factor in how much does this cost to build, factor in that we don't have a lot of generational wealth now to redistribute with. And so if we're starting here, how do you build wealth out of that?
Right.
How do you acquire a home at the most cost-effective way possible?
Right. Absolutely.
And I think too many times it's the flip. It's like, how much money can we make off of this?
Yeah. And how quickly?
Because how much money we can make off of this will never give you an answer that supports the community.
Right.
There's always going to be a cheapest way to build it and sell it at the highest model that looks way more sexy than, build it affordably, sell it affordably. Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But we need to be able to give each other equity in that space.
Yeah.
And what does that look like?
Right.
And that's where I come from, the position of not trying to be if I had all of these answers, believe it, I would be, you know what I mean? I would have already built it. I would have already, that's how I operate.
Right. Agreed.
But
it would have been done.
If the generations before us, or if our generation had figured that out, we wouldn't be here. So now the best thing I can do is ask the question and bring the thoughts and ideas that I have to bear to the discussion.
Absolutely.
And I think that's at least where we have to start from. I think a lot of times where we mess up is we want to have a conversation about how to build our community. And then for that conversation, we invite everybody from outside of our community. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like with this book, there are certain things that we have to be able to discuss amongst ourselves and get on code with each other on first before we're bringing anybody else into the discussion.
Right. So I thought that was interesting because I think to some degree, we don't have to bring other people in. Like, everything we need is right here, and it's the connecting the dots in the communities, across the communities. Like, I was reading something and it said something about, we need to have white allies and da 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 da. And I'm like, that's cool, but I want an accomplice. Like, if we're going down, like, I want my white accomplice.
Because what is an ally?
Go to jail with me. Like,
how does an ally really serve you?
I don't know. I don't know.
I got allies. I don't call none of them when it's time to go into a dark alley. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want an ally. I want somebody that's going to suffer with me. I want somebody that's going to help me to build. And that's the thing. Think about this. I don't think that's the reason why I feel like you completely justified in that being your ask, is because when we show up for everybody else, That's the code that we abide by. Like, yo, we give everybody so much more grace
Everything.
than we demand.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
As a man, when I show up to a space for women,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm here as a support system, as an ally. If you ask me for something, whatever you ask for, I'm going to try to deliver it. The last thing I'm going to do is try to tell you what I feel like you need to do as a woman. You know what I mean? To make that's not my place.
Right.
And I feel like if I can do that, if we can do that in those small situations. Hold up one second. Baby girl. I love you to death, but you cannot just be oh. But yeah, like I can't show up in a space that is not mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or it's not for me. And try to bring my, you know what I mean? Bring my stamp.
Yep.
And say, all right.
And take up space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we all need to be able to do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that was just a man-woman example. But I'm being like.
But sharing the platform with the rest of the community, with those who aren't writing books and organizing, small villages but tell it. You said something about development or equitable. I think what I'm trying to get at though is that each community kind of needs something different.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Listening to what the community needs, not showing up and saying, "Oh, you guys don't have a bank here. You don't have this here. You need this."
Who said that's what we wanted?
Exactly. Like, no, if folks are asking for a grocery store, then so be it. But maybe that's not what they want right now. Maybe they want to learn how to create their own urban garden.
Or
maybe
how
they
about
don't even want the
maybe that's
store.
maybe that's a want, but there's a hierarchy of priorities.
Right.
That's like a bank would serve us, but we need this a little bit more right now.
Today.
You know what I mean?
Now. Yes.
Like, this community garden would save us, but we need this a little bit more
today.
Right. So that's my thing. I think like we have to be a lot more willing to have the dialogue about what's necessary and not just say, I'm going to bring my thoughts and my, you know what I mean?
Yes.
My thought, matter of fact, no, your thoughts are valuable and your thoughts are needed, but are they wanted?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's something that like I got a couple group chats I'm in where like I really don't even like participate in them much, but when I come in, I'm like, all right, look, I know nobody asked me for my opinion on this,
but I feel like
I got a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's my way of saying like, look, I'm not trying to bogart the conversation, but just in case nobody else throws these two thoughts into the stew, let me just throw this in there and do whatever with it that you want.
Let it marinate. Mm-hmm.
That is, I think, a better approach than saying, oh, nah, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Right.
Because I don't know that.
Right. I
don't know that. Like the arrogance of most of us to think that we have things figured out, whether it's in, the arrogance of it to think it in activism and social justice. It's like none of it, even our small wins, when you look at the grand scheme of things, don't really amount to
much of anything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So that because I've had a successful campaign, or because we raised some money, or because we donated some items, now I'm supposed to act like I got all of the answers.
And it's not the case.
But that's what so many people do. It's this arrogance of, I know everything.
But
and
don't you think the community wants them to know everything? Or
yeah,
not
but
even the community, but the people.
But the people are also lazy in that front.
Right.
And I don't mind saying that. Like I'm at the point now where it's like, even with this project, right? And that's like the like I have friends that I know haven't read this project. And that's like that and I'm not angry about that.
Right.
But with all of my projects, it's probably been friends of mine that didn't check them out. That not everything's for everybody.
Right.
But this one right here is the one where, at least amongst my friends, I'll be like, yo, this is the one I want you to read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is the one where, like, there's something good in all of them, but I feel like this one right here is going to start the conversations that will be beneficial. It will lead to something fruitful for you.
Absolutely.
There's a few of them that when we had that conversation, they were straight up like, yo, I know it's a whole lot that I need in here. But I think you need to do an audio book version, which I am in the process of doing.
Right.
But that's
like, I'm not gonna read it.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, they're just telling you.
It's
I'm not gonna read it, bro.
Because it's like, not just because of this project. What else are you just admitting? Like, are you just belligerently like, yo, I know this would be good for me, but no,
I don't want it. Yeah,
I don't got the time.
That sounds like work.
I don't feel like it.
It sounds
that's
like
too
work.
much like work.
Yeah.
But how lazy have we gotten?
A lot.
And that's my thing. I have to like the When We Toughen Up We Need to Toughen Up chapter. I talk a lot about our ancestors and what we've descended from.
Yeah.
How can we be so brittle in 2022 where we allow these small things to break us? Not saying that they don't need to be a part of the discussion.
Right.
But I'm not letting somebody's words or an obstacle being in my way stop it. Like, yo, if that breaks you, you was never meant to get to that mountaintop. And we just have this entitlement that we feel like because we want a thing or because we want to see this reality, it's like
we deserve it.
But the faith without works is dead. And that was all the way back in the Bible. You can go to any religious text and they will tell you can believe in a thing, but you got to actually put the action behind
to get it.
The belief to get it.
Yeah.
So what are we really trying to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the point that I kind of find myself at. And in these chapters, when I'm talking about these things, again, I'm not trying to sound like somebody that is condemning or, I don't want to be sitting up on I'm pointing across and back because I've done many of these same things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I definitely didn't feel like you were condemning.
Yeah. But it's once we recognize certain things, certain actions of ours to be problematic or to be, in the way of who we want to be and what we want to accomplish, then I think that we're in a position where now like we're not doing ourselves our proper service. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not demanding what's necessary out of ourselves to actually see the things that we want to bring to bear come into the world.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can have a dream. You can have the most beautiful dream in the world. But if you're not prepared to take the necessary steps for that dream, it's like, all right, the dream was beautiful.
Yeah. But that's all it was.
It was just a dream.
Yep.
It would have been a beautiful reality, but there was some work steps that were missed.
Yeah.
And we just thought that it was just gonna, through osmosis, become, like we gotta build it. So it's like nothing can be achieved until it can first be imagined. That's like the first step. That's where you need your creators and your artists and your poets and your writers. Like we imagine things. You know what I'm saying? Like before I could form words and speak, I was building and creating things from my imagination.
Absolutely.
So I'm always a person where I say I have an idea, and as long as I can see the idea concretely in my head, I can make it real.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you need those people, but then you need the people that actually are the problem solvers, the critical thinkers that say, all right, this is the idea. You have ingenuity and talent to bring this to bear, but there are steps that you got to go in this process. They're connecting those dots. And then there are people that are foot soldiers that is just like, all right, y'all are putting these elaborate plans together for this huge, but you need somebody to pick up these bricks and bring them over here.
Right.
You need somebody to bring water to all of the people that are doing the heavy lifting. You need somebody to prepare a meal for everybody when they get on a break. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So without the dreamer, you know what I mean? Or without the strategist, or without the bricklayer, or without the person to go around with the refreshments and the water and to serve and to heal, and without, you know what I mean? Without any of these things working in its a proper alignment, the pyramid never gets built.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that we're trying to do that. We're trying to build the greatest pyramid ever created, but we're not utilizing all of the tools in our toolbox.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because like you said, everything that we need is within our community, from a talent, an idea perspective, from a passion perspective, from a boots on the ground perspective.
The money even.
But we're just different fingers. It's like you got the boots over ground right here. You got, you know, the money over here.
Over
you
east
got the,
and we over west, and we not going across town
but
to
what
have
needs
that
to happen
conversation.
for this to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah, we need to continue to cross-pollinate communities and continue to engage and come to events like this and talk about getting on code. So that's what I want to know. Like, as you're working on this project, is there going to be a follow-up? Are you going to continue to have conversations?
Yeah,
like
so we actually, this is actually the first stop of the Getting On Code tour.
Perfect.
So we're going to be like, and it's so many layers to it, but I'll go into it. So when I did this project, obviously, you know, this was supposed to be the bang to start the conversation.
Okay.
But too often times we start the conversation, but there is no follow-up. There is no plan of action. There is no. So this book is the first step in that. And the community conversations piece is something that I want to start and spark it, but I want it to go beyond me. I don't want to be the only person hosting these conversations. I want the kids that are reading this book to go to their school and to be having that conversation in their school. I want the people that go to their church to get them people together that do the little church organization stuff. Like, all right, well, how are we going to operate? And I want you going home and fathers and mothers sitting with their kids and saying, what is our family code? Right. You know what I mean? Like it's that type of project where I want you sitting with your partner, your husband or your wife, and saying, what is our code with one another? Not just in our relationship, but to how we're raising our family, to how we're, you know what I mean? How we're building our community. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't think that we've had a project that's forced us to do that yet. No. You know what I mean? And I tried to be intentional with, like, in this project, even the questions that I'm asking, trying to do something that's going to lead us to that mode of being together. Yeah. So that's just the first step. Then you have the community conversations, you have the tour. This is just the first, and I probably got 5 projects in the clip right now. This is my 6th, so I probably got my 10th project already done. Right. But obviously with each project, you got to give it time to breathe. You got to, I'm an independent author. So, you know, when you're doing things, you know, on your own, it's possible, but it's unwise to be promoting multiple things, 2 projects at the exact same time while you have a whole back catalog of work that you still have to, you know, if you're stocking places on consignment versus them buying it outright and all of that kind of stuff. Right. It's a business. That matters. But there's also, I have a plan, you know, and the next couple projects are the next, you know, few steps of that plan. But the end of that plan is the project that is not finished yet, but is the one that I think is going to be even more impactful than this one. Is called the Black Baltimore Blueprint. And what that is not just me, but it's a collection of the thought leaders and community organizations that I feel like are the bread and butter of our Baltimore community, how they got started, what their end goal is, how they contribute to sustainable future for our communities in Baltimore, and what they need in order to continue. You know what I mean? So for anybody that's saying, all right, I want to get involved, I want to support, I want to donate money, I want to, this is a one-stop shop. Pick up the book all of those. You know what I mean? Yeah. From our political organizations to our community mediation organizations to our economic, you know, our housing. We'll be talking on that. But, and obviously I can't do that. Like we'll have a list, but that leads to the website. That leads to the website where there's a list served and there's a, you know what I mean? And now once you have a one-stop shop of how all of these thought leaders get, not everybody agrees. Not everybody has a, so now you have a space to bring them all to the table and say, all right, this is your concept. This is your concept from chapter 5. How do we bring these two together? This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. Yeah. So now it's not just a one-stop shop of the ideas, but it's the starting point between all of these community organizations coming together into something that is singular. You know, so that's something that I've been working on for about a year now. But and that project is something that I'm probably going to drop, you know, towards like, you know, September, October. Okay. But like this project leads into that. Yeah. You know, because this one is just me getting all of the stuff that I have off my chest and into the discussion, because the next book is going to be it's going to have my thoughts and my ideas and my concepts and additions in there, but it will be a very small section of what will be much more. Yeah, exactly. The ecosystem is much larger than me. Right. So I want that book to really highlight that ecosystem and point us towards sustainability, saying if all of these organizations have everything they need to do the best version of their work, we have a sustainable community in Baltimore. Yeah. Yeah, that would be dope. Like starting with
just these are my ideas. Let's have a conversation about it. The discussion questions are dope. Like,
because we got to get on code first.
Right.
Once
like,
we all are on the same
language.
page, and now we speaking the same language, now we can take the next step.
Right.
Now we can say, all right, we speaking the same language now. Now this person has this.
Right.
This person has this. This person has this.
I love
How
it.
do we bring them together?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's
everything
like the
I do,
foundation.
from the coloring books all the way up to these, is intentional.
Yeah.
I started with the coloring books. I wanted my students in the classroom to be able to see themselves reflected.
Yeah.
I wanted to see themselves celebrated as they are, and not their dressed up selves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? When
yeah.
picture day, not picture day you out on the playground and in the trenches you.
Rugged.
You know, but
smell like outside.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what in each of these projects I want to speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want us to feel like we have to be dressed up to be seen and
Right.
heard and valued. Like where we are. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
why in the language I tried to keep it simple. I didn't want to write for an academia audience.
Right.
Like
Easy
a lot of my
read.
brothers and sisters are still struggling with certain things. So I want
Right.
them to still be able to access the word. So I need to say it as plainly as possible and as simple as possible. You know, I still
Yeah.
want to make the words engaging and artful, artistic, and all of that, but I want it to be something that you can process. I don't want to be doing intellectual Olympics for no reason.
Right, right. I mean, especially since we know that most people who graduate from Baltimore City schools have an issue with reading. So I think,
but it's like there's
thinking
people
of it
for
on
that.
all these
There's people
levels.
for that though. It's like Ta-Nehisi Coates writes beautifully.
Yes,
You know, he writes for
yes.
that educated
Higher
Atlantic,
level.
you know what I'm
Yep.
saying, intellectual demographic.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? D. Watkins, like, you know, he's an amazing writer.
Right.
He's more accessible though.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He's
There's
somebody
levels to
that.
this.
So you think that the same person that reads Ta-Nehisi Coates is reading D? Yes.
Yes.
But the people that are reading D aren't reading Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Mm.
You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
He's accessible to the people that
that's a good
Ta-Nehisi
point.
can't reach.
That's a good point. Like,
So when you're writing a project, you got to
backwards
say
reversal.
what is
Mhm.
the value? Who do you care about
Who's the
processing
target?
your stuff more?
Yeah, who's your target?
Are
Who
you
do want to
writing this
understand it?
for schools and for, you know, politicians, and you know what I mean? I could have wrote
Yeah.
I didn't even send this to my my political
Right.
folks and my, you know what I mean? They gonna read it, but like
Yeah,
I'm not
It's
even
not the
sending it to
same.
you. I'm not talking to you.
yeah,
I'm talking to everybody that you be pandering to every few years.
yes.
That's fed up with you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to them in a language that you not really gonna like too much.
No, not at all. Because I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, this is
Oh yeah,
my
when you get the politics as
language.
usual, you like,
oh.
and then especially when you know how many people I know,
Yeah.
it's like, all right,
It's like, oh,
that's how you feel.
right. I
Yeah,
think I know who
that's
you're
how I
talking
feel.
about. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
but that's what because I'll say names if I was talking about anybody specific. I'm talking about all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, because
I'm
everybody
talking about all, and there's not
yeah.
both sides. Everybody that's in the water right now is dirty.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Everybody in the water right now is participating, and so are we, because we act like we don't vote them in every.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or not show up.
So when they come to
when
they come to pander, we take the bait.
mm-hmm.
Or and we're not really like, who are we grooming from our community right now to be a mayor in 10 years? Who are we grooming from what judges are we like? We grooming athletes.
Oh yes, from knee high, right? Yeah. No.
So that's my question. It's like, who are we grooming?
They're grooming Aaron Maybin.
Oh,
Not for
is that
politics,
who
we
it-
not.
Yeah.
Yo, not for politics, we not. Look,
Say it louder for the people in the back. Aaron Maybin for mayor.
not for politics,
Okay.
we not.
Okay.
But here's the thing, like but and there's a trade-off there, and that's the thing. When I talk about that balance in my life, part of that comes from that confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I go to my community and I say, hey, I'm collecting money for this, or I'm taking donations for this, or we're getting ready, they support me because I've never asked them for anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never asked for your vote.
Right.
I've never asked for you to leverage power behind me for my own personal gain.
Mhm.
If anything,
Mhm.
I've turned down money and opportunities just so people
Right.
knew that it was authentic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So why would I ever dirty or sully that reputation with politics? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because just being very clear, I empathize with a lot of our politicians too, because I know them. Before you even got in office, you sold us out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you wouldn't have, had you not sold us out, you wouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
That's the what we really don't want to wrestle with.
Yeah.
That's what we really don't want to. So when you say they grooming me, it's like I wouldn't be able to give you nothing different than what they are, because in order for me to to even get the blessing, we got kingmakers in Baltimore. For them to actually say, "Oh yeah, he's the guy," you have to make promises to them. You got to say, when this comes up, I'm gonna vote this way, no matter what the community wants. You got to say, when this opportunity comes up, you get this check. You got to say, like, and until we doing something to actually address that, even when a person goes to jail, when Catherine Pugh went to jail, the system that she was operating in still exists. All of those same people still have jobs, are still getting money, are still doing under the table stuff. And we act like something happened because Kathy, as a black woman, got dragged, you know what I mean, and sent to jail when she was just one of the people at the table.
Just the one that.
So what I'm saying is we put too much stock in what we expect these pilots. They're going to do what they've always done.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Because there is a such thing as us putting pressure, enough
on
pressure.
Those politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they know there are real consequences and reprisals for them voting a certain way, they're going to do the opposite. Because once you get in that position of power, you do want to keep it. Now, if you feel like the kingmakers that put you there can do a better job of keeping you there than the people that vote every election cycle, you're going to continue to do what serves them. Yeah. But once you get there, if you feel like the people themselves will uproot you, you're going to speak to a different tune. You know what I'm saying? And then it comes to, what do they have on you? Because, that's a thing too.
Yes.
I don't know a mayor past 20 years where it wasn't some dirt on them.
But what is it about us that when there's dirt on them and it's not necessarily something that gets them, out of office? Like, I think it comes back to your cancel culture thing. Like, we've canceled them. Oh, they're not one of the good ones. They've represented us. I'll give you
a real life example. In my mind, I don't care what the government. Sheila ain't do nothing wrong.
What was that? Gift cards or something?
Yeah.
Something simple. I don't know.
Gift cards?
I don't know.
You realize how many gift cards I done gave out to kids? You think I would have been in jail right with it. I would have get like, what are you talking about? Since when do we allow media, white folks, rich folks, anybody to tell us how we deal with each other? Just because you tell me that this person is bad, like, nah, she was good in the hood because the promises that she was making to people, she was actually fulfilling on. You know what I mean? Like that means something to me.
Right.
That means something to folks that are cut from my cloth.
Right.
That's why when she's still good in the hood wherever she go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People still want to be by her. People still want to take pictures. People still want to, you know what I mean? She got real love here.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm always going to have love here. Right. Because I do what I say. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if I'm in that position, they'll find a way to weaponize that against me. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
when you do too much, that's just as bad as not doing anything.
It's like put you in your place and go back to where you came from.
And I've seen that as an athlete. I've seen that as an athlete before Colin Kaepernick. You know what I mean? Like I've seen that as a black man. I've seen that just as a Baltimore citizen.
Right.
Like that's nothing new to me.
Right.
So when I say, all right, that's the landscape that I'm operating on. Politics does not serve me.
Yes.
What allows me to do the best version of my work is working within the community, actually talking to people, serving people directly. That's why the rec center that we open, I'm there every weekday, 12 to 5:30. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my kids see me every single day. Their parents see me every single day.
They know exactly who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Not even they know exactly who. They can depend that I'm going to be there for what I say I'm going to be there for.
Right.
You depend on me to tutor you. You depend on me to give you this guidance, so that I'm going to be there every day. Are you going to be there is the question. But they're so used to being let down They're so used to not being valued and prioritized by different people. They're used to their teachers kicking them out of the school building rather than, and that's the thing now, the beautiful thing about opening up this rec is when they kick them out of school, they come to me now.
So now they have a place to go.
Because they don't want to go home. They don't want to go home if mom and dad is there because they already know they got an ass whooping coming their way. They already, or mom and dad might be at work. Where was the kid going to be when they got thrown out of school? Just running around the neighborhood?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mischief.
And that's what's happened, right? How many times have you heard over the last 20 years people talk about all the rec centers that have closed up and how that's contributing to
Even today,
what have we done about it?
Nothing. I know.
I just opened one with Torrey Smith earlier this past year, but and that center that we reopened had been closed for the past 15 years.
Like most of them.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They all started to close around the same time.
Right.
But my question to everybody that complains about that is, what did you do about it?
Right.
You voted for the people that did it. You voted for you voted for them again and again after that.
Right.
You didn't put any pressure on them to reinstate the funds to, you know what I'm saying? Like you allowed this just as much as the politicians you blame for it.
Right.
So for us to change that, are we waiting for the politicians to come in and open them for us? Or are we going to say from a community standpoint, what is feasible and what is possible for us? You know, because I'll give you an example now. Granted, there's a position of privilege that I operate from as an athlete, as a former athlete.
Absolutely.
Me and Tori. Finances, connections, all of those things, right? But let's put it on this scale. So we both decided that we were gonna reopen this space, right? You know, me, him, and his wife, we got together. We put all of the plans together for what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it. There was a certain amount of money that had to be raised just to get the building up to code and all of that kind of stuff. Closed for that long, like you can already imagine. But even at that point, there's a whole bunch of heavy lifting that has to go into it.
Still.
You know what I mean? Like even with all of that, we did everything that we could. We did a summer camp that was phenomenal. After the summer camp, both Under Armour and the Ravens, who had been watching what we were doing, both decided to put up about $500,000 each for our expansion.
Right.
So now from the small building that we were able to get up to code to get it open.
Yeah.
But we can only have a certain amount of kids in there every single day. Limited because space. It's a small building and you know what I mean?
Right.
But now we expand that 5 times the size.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Not because they heard an idea and they said, all right, because they actually saw us putting the work in. They saw the enrichment that the kids were getting. They saw the resources that were brought to bear. And they saw how passionate we were about it.
Right.
So my thing is, it's like, if you want to see those things, start it yourself.
Do it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Change you
At least start it. And as soon as people see you pushing your own car down the hill, up the hill, people will be much more willing to get up out of the car and help you. You know what I'm saying? But like, my thing is, a lot of the times we're just talking about the problems, but we're not talking about what we're actually doing right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when we raised that money for the school system, I was already talking about the problem, but where Sam was so brilliant and all of that was she just started a GoFundMe page. She was like, F it. Like, I don't know where the money going to come from, blah, blah, blah. We didn't even know each other at the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's how we actually came into each other's lives. But at the end of the day, when we met, it's like she had already exerted the faith of starting this GoFundMe page, not knowing what, and it just so happened I had all the connections in the world. Right. So now when I start, we're not going to start a new link. Give me yours. And we just going to put this out there and we just going to like
make it happen.
Almost $100,000 later. Now we actually have means to go out and buy these things that we're saying that the schools need and all of that kind of stuff. Right. And now we got people reaching out from across the city and across the country, and the people that and former people that used to cover me as an athlete, now they're talking about this work that we're doing, and other athletes now, without the faith of starting the page, without the connections of the person that puts it out there, without the work of us actually like taking all of our free time for months. You know what I mean? And driving through snow, through rain, through sleep.
Everything.
You know what I mean? Like all of that
to make it happen.
But when people see that, they see you outside of the car pushing,
and they want to.
How can I help?
Yeah,
I can't do all of the stuff y'all are doing, but what can I give y'all? What can I?
People want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and I think you've showed people like what communities can come together to do, because you're saying that you didn't even know Sam before, like this
had never met before that.
You know what I mean? Like but that's how these things are born. Like, it doesn't have to be the cousin that you grew up with or the friend who was across the street. It's bringing all these resources together, regardless of where they came from, and making something bigger than yourself. So I think that's super dope. I think that getting on code is something that all the people need to pick up. All the people need to read. Can you tell us where we can pick it up or how we can buy it?
Well, obviously, I'm going to plug Charm City Books first, because you know what I mean. Honestly, for multiple reasons. I definitely wanted. I regret not saying this. Since we opened the rec center, I had this thought of just what it could be. You know what I mean? And I, had these, obviously as an educator myself, these like grandiose like ideas of how we were gonna engage and build with our kids. And one of the first things that like I really wanted to do, because as an educator, even though I was an arts and literacy teacher, I was located in the library, and that was intentional. Because like literacy and reading was a part of every single one of my classes and all of that. Like, so I always was like, yo, we need a community library, in this space. Like, and we need all of the most revolutionary books and the books that made me and so many other people fall in love with reading in the first place. And then once you fall in love with reading with these books, then we need the books that keep you entrenched. And then we need the books that really blow your head off. And like, we need all the books that you can't get to and all of. So I'm like, man, we already spending all of this just on getting the place ready, keeping it up, blah, 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 man. Like, I'm like, that's a lot of books first and foremost. And then like, how am I just gonna? So I just put it out there, like, man, I tweeted one day. I was like, look, we just got a couple books donated to it. And that was the thing. We had a donation of books from, a very well-meaning group of people that all of the books damn near that they donated were, I looked at them and I was like, yo, these are nice books, but like our kids are not gonna read these. They don't see themselves. Yeah, not even black books. It just
black authors, black content.
Just black people were non-existent with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I figured that's what you were gonna say when you said well-meaning.
Yeah, like it's like, these would be a nice, these would be a nice addition to some places, but our kids aren't gonna, you know what I mean? Like, and I watched them with them for a couple days, and they would crack a book open, but like, they turn a couple pages and then kind of put it back. So I was like, all right, man, like, what could I do? Like, what could I do to kind of expand on this? Because I need them literate. I need them to be reading for enjoyment. I need them to be reading
for fun.
And I need them to be reading something that they actually want to read. I don't want them to be, oh man, Mr. Maybin making us read again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like, so I tweeted, I was just like, look, we got some donations of some books and I'm really grateful, but I just would love to get some more books that are more culturally, relevant. I try to, speak appropriately and all that, but I'm like, if I would have put a little wish list together, like, when people donate to it, and of course, I love my following, man. Like, it's like, yo, I don't care about most that, like, you don't see me post often because I really don't want to overshare. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like my life is, one, I'm a private guy. You know what I mean? Like, I prefer me and my family's time to be separate. And separate. But I understand that, like, I am a public figure.
Right. People want to know.
I monetize my public presence. You know what I'm saying? Like,
people want to know what this person is.
Exactly.
Like,
So I find myself oftentimes in like a dilemma. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I don't
It's
want
a
to share
struggle.
too much, but I don't want to not share enough.
Right.
So I'm thinking, so it's like, I'm like, all right, man, like, I want to talk about this, but I want to do it in a way that respects everybody.
Mhm.
So the thing about it is the fact that I don't overshare. Whenever I do say something and I do ask for help, usually like the response is immediate.
Right. People listening.
So as soon as I asked that question, like who would donate, I had like an easy 50 to 100 responses, just like right off the bat. Like, yo, I would do it. Like, send that link. You know what I mean? All of that. Like, yo, send the link. You know. So I'm like, all right, bet. Like, I spent the next 2 days creating like this huge wish list on Amazon. Like this, just it had to be like 600 books on there.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the first people to hit me up once I put the list out was Charm City Books. And when they hit me up, he pretty much was just like, look, like, you know, we're obviously a bookstore, so we can't just like get the books off of Amazon. Right. But if I were to go through your list and find all of the books that we can get our hands on, like, you know, we love to help. To support. Yeah, and when I thought it was just gonna be he's gonna grab a couple titles off of this joint, you know, drop them off, and that'll be the last time that we speak again. But like when I tell you, like they mobilized like nobody else. Like maybe every week and a half, I feel like he hit me up and he was like, well, we got another box of books for you. Like we got another like. And I was just so grateful because so many of those titles were the exact titles that I knew needed to be in our library. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like gave us multiple titles of a few of those books. You know what I'm saying? So that I could have group sessions with the kids. Yeah. And like, just like the way that they kept on sharing it led to so many more people. Like long story short, right now we got about 1,000 books in our library. Wow. You know what I mean? And we're still expanding on that. Wow. You know, but like and the kids every single day they're reading books of their choice, and they're not running out. You know what I mean? Like the inspiration is endless. Like you know, and what's even more is our senior citizens. They're our adults, the parents of the kids. Like because we do some things with seniors in the space. We do like we activate the space. Yeah, that's for all of them. Yep. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yo, take it, bring it back when you get done. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like read it here, read it home, like whatever, just read it. As long as you know what I mean? Like, and seeing how it started to plant those seeds. You know, I'm just so grateful to Charm City Books for how much they have contributed to what we're trying to do at the rec. Anything that I've asked for, they've tried to find a way, you know, to work with us. And as soon as I put the book out, hit me up immediately. Like, unbelievable. Not only we want to carry the book, and this is like, if you're not an author in the room, you probably wouldn't understand this. But he's like, and we want to pay you for them outright, so we don't have to do the like consignment thing. Yeah, you know what I mean? Right. That right there barely ever happens. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I'll give it. I got about maybe 20 different stores that I do business with in that way that are carrying product and all of that. Right. Like of those 20 stores that I have that relationship with, only about 2 of them have ever done that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that just shows you how rare that kind of relationship is. Right. And when you're creative and you're doing all of these different things, you need allies like that. Yes. You need allies that accomplices exactly where we're doing things not just because they are mutually beneficial, but because I'm actually invested in seeing this become a success. Right. I want to see, you know what I mean, this project that you guys are like that's what the support looks like. Yeah. When they went in to have they baby girl, we were actually talking about like this event the day before. So that kind of dedication. The day after. Yeah, that's right. So that kind of a relationship and that kind of dedication is what helps this work to continue. You know what I mean? And that is so important that we're able to actually find those kind of partnerships, you know what I mean? And really nurture them and try to see how far we can take it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't just have to be a one-time thing. Like once we have the first conversation and we start building on that, we start
Right.
realizing that there are all these points
More
of intersection
synergies. Yep.
between what we do.
Yep.
And if I can lend my platform and my resources to help you
Share the platform.
amplify your voice, and you can do the same for me, why wouldn't we allow a rising tide to raise all of our ships?
Of course. Of course.
The fact that
It
we're
only
so
makes
conditioned
sense.
to see each other as competition rather than, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Like,
nah.
well, I'm not going to share that secret,
Nah.
but I might introduce you to this person, but you can't have their contact information. It's like certain things come with, like, I don't know, some sort of agreement.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like, no, here it is. Here's the whole ecosystem. This is the whole blueprint. Take it, read it, love it.
and so
whatever.
many people, in my opinion, are so much more concerned with this idea of being like self-made or being seen as being self-made
Yeah.
that it's like actually works to their detriment.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
why the
none
hell
of
would
us
you
are
wanna
self-made.
Do everything yourself. Why would you want to do everything yourself? Like,
I've
it
always-
is so lonely and
I've
bad.
always despised that. I've despised that self-made narrative, and I've
Mhm.
despised that whole come from the mud, come from nothing
Yeah.
narrative.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
how dare you insult your ancestors in that way?
Right. Coming from
You
the
know what I
mud.
mean?
Does
Like-
your
like-
mama know you say that?
like-
ooh.
You realize the only reason we're still here is because they survived that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
that ain't the mud. Like that's
That's what made you who you
that's
are.
sacred ground right
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? And I think that we need to retool and reframe that conversation about not just how we talk about the outside world that we're in, but how we
Mhm.
see and talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if
Yeah.
that's what I see about myself, if I think I came from the mud, if I think I came from the dirt, if I think I came from nothing, and you right next to me,
Right. How much do you
What are you?
respect me? And
Yeah, you know what I
no, I
mean?
get it. Yes.
where do we come from? Like,
Yeah.
and if we don't see the value in our space, if we don't see the value in ourselves, if we don't see the value in our hood and our community,
Yeah.
oh, it's a whole lot of people that will. I'm saying you can't be mad at the people that do. When the
right,
gentrifiers
right.
come, don't complain
Because they're gonna be
because
right
you
here
didn't see the value in that.
when it was right here in front of us for
The
5
mom and
hours.
pop stores didn't always used to like be owned by people outside of our community. There was a time where we had a fair amount of them.
Yeah.
But when the owners of those stores tried to hand those stores down to their children, they didn't
They didn't
necessarily
see the
want them.
value. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They didn't see the value.
Absolutely.
But now, when you can't afford to move into
anywhere.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
anywhere. Let's
Like-
start there, renting or buying.
So like when you see that pendulum shift, you got to ask yourself how I contributed to this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And how do the actions that we continue to perpetuate contribute to it?
Yeah. Yeah. Because what we're doing now is absolutely not sustainable. It's
And
not
if we can all
sustainable.
agree on that, then what is the code? Again, a shameless plug. Like if we can all agree that the way in which that we have gone about operating has not served us,
Mhm.
then what will serve us? What is the code that we need to operate by when dealing with one another, when raising our kids, when retooling our schools and our rec centers, when holding our policymakers accountable? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's so many layers though, and I feel like so many people are needed that like more people need to read it and more people need to have the conversation because it's a lot. Like it's a lot and it's systemic and it's ingrained in us like that from the mud. Like so many people say that's like in rap culture. That's in so many things.
I didn't used to hate it when it first started in rap culture. And this is something like the real hip hop heads might feel me on this, but and I'm talking we going back now, like KRS-One time and all that. Right. There was a time where when a rapper evoked this idea of being from the mud, it was ancestral.
Okay.
Rappers used to, when we first started pouring out, like we are all products of hip hop, right? We are hip hop culture. We are hip hop culture.
Absolutely.
When hip hop culture first started, a lot of these things that became bastardized came from the purest place ever. You know, KRS used to talk about that, like even his name and how he named himself after Krishna. You know, it came from a spiritual place of understanding. Like, you know, I know he's a hyperbolic figure, but when you look at the African Bambatas of the world, like he created this whole movement around hip hop as a peaceful you know what I mean,
spiritual.
safe spiritual place for our kids to come into their adulthood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when people started pouring out liquor before their performances, that was libations to the ancestors.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
But when big money started getting behind that, they had to take that out. They had to bastardize that. It couldn't be you pouring it out on sacred ground. You had to be pouring it on a woman.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like who used to be our God. You know, look, now we getting a little too deep. Now I don't want to get Hotep-y on cat, but but at the end of the day, we got to understand that it didn't start off as that.
Right.
And whenever people start to try to demean our culture by saying that was never us, you tried to make it that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Change it into that.
So how do we take that back?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the same way we used hip hop to rewrite the English language.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes. Right. It's our whole.
If you look at like the dictionary now has so much hip hop in it, it's not even funny.
No, it's
Not
not.
the Urban Dictionary either. Webster,
Merriam, like them. Yes.
So if we can acknowledge that, if we can acknowledge that greatness, if we can acknowledge that ingenuity, then what are we doing with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How are we harnessing it? And how are we?
So if we can acknowledge that the systemic issues that we're fighting against are generations old and are systemic in nature, then the wars that we fight against that have to be just as systemic as you know what I mean, like the structures themselves. So our rebuttal to that injustice has to be layered. It has to be systematic through all of these different elements of culture, and we have to discuss that and get on the same page and know, all right, this is the code that we operate by in this lane, in this lane. So that's why even with the topics of the book, I had to really think, like, what are the areas where we are like the most divided, where it's our biggest obstacle between us being on the same page? And and that's really what I tried to tend to write about in each of these chapters. Like, I don't want to just be wasting space. You know what I mean? Like, so what do we really need to be addressing with each other?
Absolutely. I love that you included the seniors. You spoke to like intergenerational programming, like, and having that at the rec. Like, I didn't even read that or get that from here, but as I'm like taking notes, I'm like, oh yeah, intergenerational programming. Like that totally makes sense. Elders reading to the kids and teaching them literacy and that's the blueprint. You know what I'm saying?
You know,
like,
it's
it
the
just
blueprint.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, because those bridges, and it's like a lot of us, because we are the first children of hip hop culture and all of that stuff, right? We were the kids that were told we were too much. You know what I mean? We were the first kids that were told to turn that down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the devil's music.
Right.
You know what I mean? Actually, nah, that's a lie. Because went from the blues, you know what I mean? That was the devil's music as opposed to the church, you know, to bebop, hip. You know what I'm saying? There was a progression. But once hip hop got there, it was like, no.
But it was political then.
Exactly.
Like, that's what.
But even when it was political, they saw it as something, you know what I mean? As something that was dirty.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't dressed up enough for them.
Absolutely.
Its pants were hanging a little bit too low.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
you remember Tupac and C. Dolores Tucker and all of that. Like,
so I put myself in those shoes now when I watch people try to condemn drill music. And I watch people try to tell the kids that they're everything that's wrong with the world now, when it's like, bruh, they did the exact same thing to us. How do you revisit that same
the same narrative over and over?
And the thing about it is, like, the way that I feel like we change that is by addressing the lie where it is.
Yeah.
Our kids aren't the worst of anything. They're the best thing that we have. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I'll use that. Our kids will always be bigger than and better than our wildest dreams. And I'll use it like this. I'll use this as an example. When I was a kid, when I was my son's age, when I was about 6, 7, 8 years old, I would go around telling everybody I would meet, like when they would ask me about like what I was going to do with my future, I would be like, oh, I'm going to play in the NFL and I'm going to be a famous artist.
Like, you know,
I would say it just like that way, matter of factly. And like most kids, people try to take this thing like this thing that I had just said so directly, so sure, and tell me all the reasons why that wasn't gonna happen.
It wasn't gonna happen. I don't
Like,
understand that. Why do adults do that?
Even if you work hard, you're just gonna be one of blah 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 and all that. Like, I get what you're saying. I study like those numbers. I get how that make, but I'm good.
You're not going
I'm good.
to,
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Even my parents, and I know it came from a place of love. They wanted to temper my ambitions, right?
Yep.
I can remember being in high school, right? And this is where I'm all the way at the height of it. This before like I really start getting recruited heavily and all of that. So like
grown into yourself.
Schools are looking at me and stuff like that, but it's not like known that I'm just about to be this like all American. That happened about a year or two after this point. But my mother looks at me and I'm telling her all of these things that I'm going to do and all of that. And she said, baby, I really hope that you achieve all of these things that you're talking about, especially in football, because if you don't, it's going to crush you. And it's going to be hard for me as your mother
to console you,
to watch, to love you through that suffering.
Yeah.
And I felt that. Yes. I knew that it came from a place of love. As a parent myself now, I know when I talk to my son or my daughters about certain things, it's like, I am afraid for you. Yeah. I'm afraid, like, you're like, the world makes you so fearful of what it can do to your children, of how it can, of how it can maim them. And you were a child once yourself, and I know these lessons that they're going to learn, they're not always going to be taught to them by people that love them. Right. The world is not always going to be gentle and kind, right, and understanding and empathetic with how it teaches you these things. And you want to protect them from as much of that as possible. But a lot of times we put our fear on and in our kids. Project all day. Right? All day. And their attempts to do that, they didn't destroy anything. But like, had I been a kid that wasn't as belligerently audacious in the way that it would have affected me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but every single thing that I thought that I said that I was going to do, I've done. You know what I mean? To the highest level. Well, getting higher. I'm still, there's always space to go to elevate. Yeah. But I say that to say, when my kids tell me I'm gonna do this, that, and the third, it's just, all right, my man. How we gonna do it? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, let's put a plan together. Because there was a point that once my father really realized, oh, you're serious. He can not just he knew I was serious. But once he started to realize, oh, he's good. Oh, okay. Like, he got about 50 scholarship offers right now. He got about he actually might be able to accomplish this. Right. It's like he was blown away. Right. Because it's like, yo, caught up finally. Right. Yeah. But then now go with me here. Imagine when I came to him and I said, all right, the same guy now that done retired you and mom and then moved you down to South Carolina and told you as the oldest of 4 siblings that, college, all of this stuff. I got y'all. Yeah. Built you your dream house, all of this. Now I'm going to take my talents that have gotten us all of these things. Yeah. I'm going to retire from the game that gave me the money to provide all of these things. And I'm going to make art. And teach and improve and restore my community. How crazy did they think you were? Negro, have you lost your rabbit ass mind? Like, yo, it was one of them, like, yo, you gotta be. Yeah. You gotta be. My parents. You're kidding, right? You're kidding, right? Yeah. My father is a whole pastor, and I think he cussed as clearly as I've ever heard. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I understood. That was the fear. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That same fear that, like, yo, what's the percentage of athletes are bankrupt and this, that, and the third? Like, yo, you not going to be able to sustain nothing. You're not going to be this lifestyle. Yeah. As an artist. Right. Yes, I see it. Yes. We still got that house. We still got the acres of land that it's on. We still got, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was an adjustment. Yes, there was an adjustment that had to be made. I'm not making millions of dollars every single year. You know what I mean? But no, reasonably speaking, it was completely possible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like So that idea of like our kids, we put that stuff on them, but they are so much more capable than we ever will give them credit for.
Absolutely.
Like, so if we just say, all right, shoot, man, like what's the biggest problem in Baltimore, right? We got however many murders a year. We got over 300 murders a year. I need to figure out how to build a stoppy thingy. What's a stoppy thingy? Stoppy thingy is something that like I pull the trigger on this thing and it make your whole gun explode and it disintegrates your bullets.
Right. Like,
all right.
Okay.
Go build it now.
Right. Figure it out.
Tell a group of kids that. Give them all the resources they need in order to do it, and tell me that they won't do it. I promise you. Yeah. Whatever the problem is, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Present it in the right way, give them their proper resources and let them go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, but we don't do that enough with them. We don't listen to what it is that they say that they want to do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like my son came up to me recently and told me he wanted to be a police officer.
How'd you feel about that? What'd you say to your
Similar
son?
to how my father felt.
Right.
But here's the thing though. We can't pick and choose when we want to be supportive of our kids. And if that's what even though I don't believe that a person inside of that system can change it for the better, if that person does exist, it's my son.
Right. If anybody,
he being raised by me.
Him. Right.
You know what I mean? He understands the context of what, you know what I mean? My kids know these things.
Yeah.
He's not saying that.
Right.
Not measuring it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my kids have grown, they were born in protest. So I can't, when my son says that, all right, man, well, what we doing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like daddy's work isn't going to change, but your work going to have to get a little bit different. Like? Yeah. What does this look like?
Yeah.
So I think that when we start looking at it from that standpoint, now we start really equipping ourselves for the real work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You look. Absolutely. At some point, we got to be able to hand the torch over. I think the generation before us didn't do a good enough job of that.
Right.
I grew up in a generation where like, yo, the gatekeepers still got the keys.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like so when I ask you who are we grooming, I'm really serious. I believe that every year we need to be picking out certain kids in high school, you know what I mean, that have an aptitude for this type of work and say, look, we're going to get you in this internship with this city council member. We're going to get you in the mayor's office for an internship. We're going to let you see how this works.
Okay.
We're going to take up a scholarship collection if you need money for school. Okay. We're going to make sure that you got enough that you don't got to go and work. You can focus on your studies. You're going to come home in the summertime and we're going to have you doing site-based work with this civic organization and this civic. We need to groom this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So are you
by the time they get to that age,
are interested in politics?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what look, right now the same way Tupac said, I might not be the person to change the world, but I guarantee you I'm gonna spark the mind of whoever that kid is in Baltimore. He's either come through my lineage or he's gonna be vicariously connected in some way. And that's not just myself, it's other folks.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, you look at the folks, the work that's being done through Do More, Be More,
you
know, and what they're doing on the poetry and literary scene here. You look at what D. Watkins is doing. You look at what Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle and the Baltimore ceasefire movement and the Baltimore Community Mediation Center, Be More Than Dance, like all of these different organizations, all of these people, we're part of the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if we really want to see our community become the best version of itself we can be, everybody's got to have what they need.
Right.
We can't be fighting for scraps. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Everybody has to be able to come together and get funded fully in a way that's going to allow them to provide the resources that are going to change our community in the way that we need to see it transform.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, though, to your point, there's a whole mindset shift that needs to happen. Like from that scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And then recognizing that everything that we need is right here and we deserve it all, and just going out there and taking it. And moving forward to just make the plan happen. Like getting on code. getting on code, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the essence of it all, and making sure that the whole ecosystem is taken care of, from the babies to the seniors, from our schools to the assets that don't even exist yet in the community, that we need to dig in and figure out what communities are lacking.
Absolutely.
Like, so you told us where we can go in person to buy the book.
Online, wherever books are sold. I prefer if you get it from lulu.com because I get the most money right there, but it's available on lulu.com, you know, but it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Borders, pretty much wherever you get books. So charmcitybooks.com. Yes, absolutely. And we deliver. Hey, and they do indeed. Very efficiently too. Very efficiently. They got signed copies too. Most of the other spots don't got that. They're one of only. They're the only place you can actually buy a signed copy.
Look at that. Yes. Fancy pants. Y'all got the exclusivity.
Absolutely.
So I think this was dope. Was there any feedback from anybody in the audience? Did y'all want to?
Yeah, this was supposed to be like an inclusive conversation. So I know I kind of bogarted a lot of the talking points, but if anybody did have anything to add, I definitely wanted them to weigh in. You know, I know we had some folks that just came in recently, so maybe they weren't able to see the whole discussion. But I think that for the most part, everybody in this room is actually a part of this changing of the guards. You know what I'm saying? Like I see Mia in the room. What she's doing with an invisible majority is amazing. I see my man B in the room, who's not just a amazing barber, but also has his own trucking company. And what was the business you and you just started up? Absolutely. Yeah, okay. I mean, my man Piff, he just opened up a barbershop by Mundaman, and is opening up several other businesses. I see Sarah back there. She's doing amazing things, not just with Be More Green, but also with police reform and so many other areas. Like, we got real change agents here. Bari over here is about to Bari about to design a whole mainframe some way, somehow. He gonna be the Black Bill Gates. And Sam right here, she has a project that is probably even more powerful than the projects that I've put out, in terms of keeping families together and allowing us to maintain their narratives. So we'll probably be doing her book release event in the next few weeks. But you know, this is what it takes. You know what I mean? Yes. It takes everybody having our roles, you know what I'm saying, and responsibilities and lanes that we're in that allow us to contribute to the changes that we know need to take place. Like, we don't just need to keep on talking about these things esoterically. What are like the short-term versus long-term steps that we can be taking right now? Right. What does that look like? 6 months from now, what do we come back and say we need to be held accountable on?
Bruh, I'm telling you one thing. If I see one more something from like an ABLE Foundation about the digital inequity or how jobs suck or transportation stuff, like the same stuff we've been complaining about all this time. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. It isn't about me. Jolie, what was your question in the back?
Sweden and I talked about this a little bit before you got here, actually, about you've covered a ton of topics in this book, right? Yeah. So the one that stuck out to me as a person that is gender non-conforming is toxic masculinity. Right. And you talk a bit about that in the book. And I guess I just want to hear a bit about that in the NFL specifically. Mm-hmm. And then it seems like, and the other thing that I'll say is you were very vulnerable in this book.
Thank you.
In very emotional ways and very like honest ways, especially about masculinity in this way.
Which was tough for me because if you read any of my other books, like in my poetry, I've been vulnerable, but not in long form, really in this way.
I guess what I'm asking is it hard, or how much do you think about being vulnerable in that way as a Black man in America?
A lot.
And like, what does that mean?
So, for one, thank you for your question, because I definitely think I'm surprised we even didn't get a chance to touch on it. But like, I actually believe that the whole idea of toxic masculinity is a myth, and I think that it's problematic because I think that the same way we have a deficit-based mindset with a lot of things pertaining to social justice issues. We
Right.
focus so much on the problems, we allow a reframing of the discussion that doesn't serve us to take place.
Yeah.
Why do we even have conversations about toxic masculinity? None of those behaviors that I'll lay out are masculine to me. You know what I mean? If you don't know how to control your emotions, if you have to overtalk everybody, if you have to be the loudest or the most boisterous person in the room, if you abuse women, if you know what I mean? Like, these are not masculine traits. You know what I'm saying? These are cowardice traits. And when you start to, so my problem with that is, as an educator, right? When I'm dealing with my young boys specifically, young black boys specifically in my classrooms, and whenever we have conversations about manhood and masculinity, and this is a very recent thing, it hasn't been like this the entire time. The further along that we've gotten, the more and more they start to look at masculinity as something negative. And I think that that's a problem when you think about like how we identify, how self-identity, you know, factors into all of that. But a lot of these kids, every single time they hear masculinity discussed, they have that toxic stamp in front of it. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times when they're hearing their mothers or their sisters, or, you know what I mean? Like you're talking about the men that have hurt you, but there have been men that have built you up as well. There have been men that in all of our lives probably have helped to raise us and have given us things, the tools that we operate by in the real world. Do we put them up on platforms the same way that we condemn everybody else? In my mind, I would rather see us pointing out the people that we do feel like are great examples of what a real man needs to be in the community, in the world, and in our households, and say, let's be that, instead of pointing to everybody that's doing everything except for being a man and saying that that's masculine. That's never been masculine. And that's confusing our kids when they're starting to take on that identity. And when you ask about how football ties into that, it ties in because for all of my life, I was told to be what would be considered a toxic, like, you know what I mean? A toxically masculine person. Because when you're a kid, you're not praised or appreciated or understood for being vulnerable. So when you ask me why, is it hard to be? Yes, it's painful. Like even with my own lady who I love, like, you know what I'm saying? We made beautiful children together. We have an amazing life together. Even me sharing certain things with her and being open in a certain way with her is difficult. You know what I mean? And it's difficult with other black men. You know, I can point out my brother Piff right here and say there's certain moments in our relationship where, like, bruh, we had to get uncomfortable. Like, nah, I need to hug you right now. We need to pray together. You know what I'm saying? Like on some real shit, nah, we might not be here tomorrow if we don't do this. But that's so uncomfortable for most of us that we never do it. But when you done buried enough of your friends and had to ask yourself, like, would things have gone a different way if I was vulnerable, if I was open, if I did admit that I struggle with this too, if I, you know what I mean? Like, we're all just trying to figure shit out, and we wear so much on our, like, we carry so much, you know what I'm saying? And there's really no space where we can go and complain about, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that women can complain at any point, but people are much more willing to hear it from women. Like I'm overwhelmed with this, or I'm dealing with that, or like, I might want to hear a black man talk about, oh yeah, I'm struggling with this. This is horrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, there are plenty of times where I've reached out to people in my circle and I've said, well, I could use some help with this. And I'm not the type of person that's going to scream it. But if I never get the help, it's like, all right, I just shouldn't say anything. You know what I mean? Like, I should just, but we need the, like, we die early because we don't have those spaces. Like, we don't know how to show love to one another, and we end up not being able to show love to each other because we never learned how to show love to ourselves. You know what I mean? I never saw my father loving on himself. You know what I'm saying? And my father is much more open than most people's fathers would be. You know what I mean? I had many experiences with my father that many of their peers never had with their dad. So I'm privileged in that sense. And even in that relationship, I never saw my father loving himself. I never saw him prioritizing his own rest. I never saw him doing all of the things that are actually going to keep you here longer.
Right.
Can I ask, what's it like from like an identity standpoint? How does that affect you? Not in personal life.
In your personal life, you just feel like, I talked about it in that essay when I say our value is in our work. If I'm not grinding, like, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask just a random question to see how many other brothers in the room have ever met. All right, well, how many of y'all are in a relationship or have been in like a serious relationship where like you live with your partner? All right, so how many of y'all, right, your lady coming home and you just in the crib, and before she come in the door, you just start doing shit? How many of y'all done that? I've done that. Like we're so programmed. Like, what's wrong with your lady coming in the room and seeing you just laying out watching TV? I feel like if you don't see me working as soon as you come in, you don't see me cleaning, you don't see me picking something up or putting it down, you don't see me exerting myself physically. Huh?
He'll be asleep, right?
Not sleep though.
And wake up like he was never asleep.
Yeah.
You can go to sleep.
No, like she ain't lying. Like I'll wake up like it's a prop. Like as soon as I hear like
You were mad that you were sleeping.
Yeah, you get mad at yourself. Like, yo, I'll dare me
go to
be
sleep.
sleeping instead of working on something.
Yeah.
You got a book to write. You got a lesson plan to create. You got kids. You can be playing with them. You can be doing like, so it affects you in that way where you prioritize everybody else,
but yourself.
You know what I'm saying? But yourself. And it's like, and it's like, it's bad. You know that's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
But it's like, you just try to mitigate it as much as possible and say, all right, well, I still am sleeping. You know what I mean? Like there was a time where I would just bypass the sleep thing altogether. You know what I'm saying? Like there was Sam would tell, we had a rough go of it the last few weeks of me finishing up the book.
Were you not sleeping at all?
No.
Yeah,
because
you go to bed 4 or 5 in the morning and then be back up at 8.
And she knows she knows how important the project was for me. She knows how kind of crazy I can be about deadlines that I set for myself and different things. So in my mind, it's like, yeah, I'm up. I'm not in bed with you. I'm not doing, but you know what I'm doing.
Right.
You know that this is important, and she coming from the perspective is, but so is your rest. So is my time with you. So is, all of that. Like,
too.
But like, it's hard when you see that value in yourself in the things that you can provide for your family and not the experiences, the emotional, security and you know what I mean? Like
providing that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there has to be a balance. I'm always going to be a workaholic. I'm always going to be somebody that is passionate and driven and all of that kind of stuff. But there's no reason why my children, my partner, or anybody that I am a steward of should be getting what's left over after I've just been out serving everybody else.
Right.
So
including yourself though, because you need rest. Like those were naps, right?
Yeah.
You were napping for a week. Like that's unhealthy.
Napping isn't a vulnerability in this way, right? Like I don't think that napping makes you vulnerable. Like taking time off and things for yourself is necessarily a vulnerability. Do you see that as a vulnerability? As like being a role model, I guess, in this way. Do you see that as a vulnerability? Do you see those types of things as vulnerabilities? I
do, but I'm trying to unlearn it. You know what I mean? And I wrote about that in the book, possibly like partially as a reminder for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like my kids need to see me rest occasionally.
Right.
I intentionally, I'm not going to get up for an hour and I'm going to, just sit here and relax and chill. And that sounds crazy to some people, but I really just don't be doing that a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very rare that I'm ever just laying down or chilling or relaxing. So that does feel vulnerable for me. And also it's I don't know, it's even though I'm in a house among loved ones, if anybody can sneak up on me and get the drop on me, like I feel it's the same way when we walk into restaurants and we sit in the back corner so we can see everything. It's like it's certain street shit that never really leaves you. So it's like, all right, that's just a mentality, and you gotta like be able to deal with it, but move past that. Also, I think, and just to also piggyback on the football thing, when you get celebrated for violence, essentially, like football, boxing, wrestling, these are sports that allowed me to be violent and get celebrated for.
Yes.
Right.
But
the problem is when you become dependent on that, what happens when the game is taken away from you?
Yeah, you still have to exert that energy.
Right.
Like that energy still exists within you. And
so, there was a time where when I was playing, right, there'll be a time where like if you were to say something bad to me or anything, I could take it. Just keep on going, because at some point in time during this day, I'm gonna put on a helmet and shoulder pads, and I'm gonna assault somebody multiple times and get away with it. You know what I'm saying? And then afterwards, I'm gonna feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So,
or like, you know, if me and my homies is going, we gonna put the boxing gloves on and we just gonna go and we gonna spar for a few. Afterwards, I feel great. You know what I'm saying? Physical combat does that for me. It allows me to be peaceful in other ways. Yeah. But then when that outlet is no longer there,
you still gotta exert that energy.
You gotta exert that energy so you drown yourself in your work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like you understand that like the violent guy gotta die. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't be professing peace to my students and my peers and my, you know what I'm saying? I can't be in the streets talking about stop the violence and I'm out here getting in fights and you know what I mean? Like you gotta grow, you gotta evolve. And that's the example that you're setting for, you know what I'm saying? I want to model for them how to disagree with people without being violently disagreeable, but I can't be a hothead still
and display that type of.
But I am a hothead.
Yes.
So that's my
inner conflict.
No. So it's like I can be a hothead, but still know that I have to control myself.
Yeah.
So you can get me heated, and I'm still shut up and listen to what you have to say. I'm gonna still try to moderate how loud I get because I know my voice is deep and loud, and it can get abrasive and intimidating if I, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna do all of those things, but I'm gonna be hot. Like I'm gonna be like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be furious, but I still have to be able to articulate to you why I'm hot or what's going. You know what I mean?
Display violence,
right? And not display violence. So that's my thing. It's like, but that's a universal. That's not just a man thing. I know women that think it's okay for them to swing on dudes. Why? You know what I'm saying? Like we getting to this point where, like, it was one thing, and it was I don't even think it's acceptable to talk to anybody any kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's like once you start talking with a certain amount of energy, you can't act like retaliation is not coming.
Not right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That doesn't excuse.
At some point, you're feeling threatening to me, and I might just hit you.
And when a bunch of people, and I'm not saying
just do what they do.
And I'm not saying that it's acceptable, but I'm saying knowing that so many of us don't, not just men. Triggers. People, period, don't have control of their emotions. Period. You know what I mean? And when they get angry, they just do whatever and they try to justify it later. Knowing that we got to be more intentional about how we have conversations, especially when things are running high. Yeah. That place of love that, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it
where
like
we start from love.
Even when we mad at each other, even when we beefing, the love got to be there, or
it's going to be some bad things.
Or it's up. Like,
yeah, no, that's true. So, that's true. Sarah, what do you want to add?
How do you balance your work with being a parent? And I'll say where that comes from. Right? I think you might know like the amount of stuff that I did today, but I know that my kids don't.
Right.
So even though he got up and he saw me in the bed and he left out the school before I left, he doesn't know that my car wouldn't start this morning. He doesn't know that I called AAA. He doesn't know that I didn't get to work till 11:30. He doesn't know that I had 4 meetings at work and that I was in here to make sure that he was here from 11:30 to 6. He doesn't know that by the time I go through all those things and I come back home, that I am tired, I am exhausted, and I now have to make space to make sure that I don't spaz out on my kids because I was patient with everybody else on it.
Right.
With that type of energy, how are you able to balance the perception that you are in a leadership position with making sure that you're still stable?
That's a great question. And I'm gonna start off with saying I'm not always perfect at it. You know what I mean? I'm not always great at it. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that I lean on, it'll be certain times where Sam will be like, that was too much. You weren't patient enough with them right there. Or like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You can tell you're irritated right now and you're starting to project it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like she'll tell me, she'll be like, go sit out on the porch, you know what I mean? Go have a cigar or something, like, let me like, but I'm vocal with them about that. You know what I'm saying? Like yesterday, for example, was it yesterday? The kids with me. Yeah. No, Sunday. I had a event to go to where I was vending, right? And they come with me, and like my thing is, I try to include them in my work as much as possible. Right. You know what I'm saying? I grew up the same way, Barry, right up under you. I grew up right up underneath my father. Mm-hmm. So everywhere where he was at, whether he was at the church, whether he was working at the fire department. So, you know, if it's a fire department event where he's on call, blah, 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 I'm in the car, I'm with him. I'm his right-hand man. I learned a lot being up under him. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what a man is supposed to be. I learned a lot about how I need to move by doing that. And I also had certain conversations with him because of that proximity that I would have never had if I was just in a house. Right. Like I got mad at my kids, like, because they weren't ready for me fast enough. I'm like, look, y'all are about to make me late. All right. I try to always be punctual. But in this case, the reason why I'm upset is not just because I'm always trying to be punctual, which y'all know, but if I'm late for this event, the prime placement that I want at the front of the spot where everybody walks in, I'm not going to be able to get, which is going to affect my money. And it's going to affect their money now because now they're selling stuff too. I got them. And that's the beauty of being able to include them in, or not being able to, demanding. Mm-hmm. If my kids can't come, you can't book me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might choose to leave a couple of them. I might choose not to bring all of them. But if my kids aren't welcome, why do I need to be there? You know what I'm saying? Like, so the mixture between me having a certain proximity and trying to like be open with them about what I'm struggling with while I'm struggling with it. You know what I'm saying? Especially with my son, because my son is exactly like me. Like, he is literally a smaller version of myself. So all of the same problems that I had as a kid, like the stuff that like his mother can't even pick up on, I see it and I know where it comes from. And even when I think I know where it comes from, I'll still have a conversation with him about it. Like, is this coming from here? Right? All right, bet. So now I know how we got to deal with each other in order for him to get what he needs and for me to get what I need. What I need, right, is for you to be a kid, but for you to be a kid that understands that while happiness matters, while being able to enjoy life and be what do you call it, audacious and all those great things, that's cool. But knowing order is just as important. Understanding that, yo, if I'm on this field and these are the rules at this field, I got to know how to play this game on this field. And if I can't hold myself accountable to play this game by the rules, that I'm not going to be able to play on any field. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's my thing. It's like, I'm not trying to be a friend instead of a parent. You know what I mean? Like, there are boundaries there, and I'm somebody that has very high standards for what I expect of my kids. But like, I have those high standards because I know what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And when I feel like they're not capable of something, it's more so how do we get there than me trying to, like, me beating them up for it. Most of my stuff is like me beating myself up, to be perfectly honest. It's like, I'll be like, yo, you did too much here, or you didn't do enough here, or you know what I'm saying? It's like, our kids, they're not perfect. They got a lot of issues and all of that. But I have to constantly remind myself, like, even though all of my kids have their own personalities, their own issues, their own things that we're working on. All of them are further along than I was at their age. Intellectually, you know what I mean? Socially, you know what I'm saying? All of them are greater than me. So like, I try to keep that in its proper perspective and not like allow me to get too low on anything. But also I try not to get too high either, because they're so brilliant that I don't want to constantly be that guy of like, wow, you did this. It's like, nah, like I want them to understand that, yeah, you should be smart. You should be, it's like that high standard is there for a reason. But it's like the grace, the patience, all of that is still got to be there too. So it's a balancing act. And I think I done said that in every group chat that I'm in, where every me and Pip have talked about that. Me and you have talked about that. I feel like me and Mia have talked about that at a certain point. We give our kids the best that we have to give them. You know what I mean? But none of us get it right. But the most important thing I think is like, for one, that they know that they have somebody that will fight for them. You know what I mean? But me fighting for you does not mean that I'm not going to hold you accountable. You know what I'm saying? Yep. You'll take me into any dark alley to fight for you, but I will fight you if you are living beneath your privilege. I love you. Yeah, I mean, so as an inside joke, man, you know what I mean? But like, you know, and as I told you, you're doing a great job. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though Bari is much like me, right? I was telling him this earlier. I was like, yo, like, I was a kid that pushes I'm still the nigga that pushes the envelope. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still the one that like gets people riled up. I still make trouble. But there's a difference between me standing up in the middle of the class and saying, this is stupid, this is wrong, I'm not doing this, blah, blah, blah. That's not really going to get me what I want. You know what I mean? Me knowing when to go to the guy and me knowing to say, all right, like, I know that you need me to do this, and I know that I'm supposed to do that, but between me and you, this is stupid. What do I need to do to, you know what I'm saying, appease what you need, but I'm not trying to have to, you know, do this unnecessary thing. That's a conversation that any of my students ever approach me with, we can have. But when I got 30 kids in my class, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to keep control over everybody. I'm trying to make sure that we get through this lesson plan. And then when I ask the one kid to do one thing, they be like, nah. Then I ask the next kid to do, he's like, well, he said no, so I'm going to say no. Yeah, I think I'm going to say no, Mr. Maybin. Like, it's like, bro, you can't allow me to have a mutiny in my hands on the class. It's like, so that's my thing. It's like, you're too smart not to be a critical thinker in that way. And I think that's what your mother gets frustrated by. Like, you're brilliant, bro. You are brilliant. You are way too brilliant to be giving your teachers ammunition to say, all right, I'm going to give him that grade because I don't like him. Nah, can't do that. Right. So like what my thing was, it was like, you know, I always say to my kids, because this is what my father always told me, and I didn't realize until I got to high school that this was like the most foolproof method ever. If I'm sure I'm getting your best effort, you will never hear me say I'm disappointed in anything that you ever do. But the problem is when I know what your best effort looks like, and I know that if you were giving your best effort, you would be a straight A student no matter how much you bucked against the system, then yeah, I'm disappointed in that. And that's not a I don't love you. That's a I need you to do better. That's a if I'm asking you to do this around the house, I know you had a long day, but you ain't paid no bills today. I guarantee you that. You ain't had to deal with making sure that somebody else ate 3 times today. I know you ain't had to deal with that. So if I say take the trash out, I don't mean in 5 minutes. Let's just do it now and get it over with. You know what I'm saying? Like when I say be back by a certain time, think about the fact that I got the freedom to leave the crib. If I don't be back by this certain time, I'm probably not going to get the freedom to leave the crib again. So is whatever I was staying out an extra 30 minutes to an hour for worth me not being able to go out for the next month? Come on. Don't be in your own way. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I think that once me and my pops got to that understanding, it was like, oh, damn, all he's asking for is my best. That doesn't mean I'm going to mess up. Like, I'm still going to mess, even after the point where I decided, all right, I'm going to give my best effort. I still messed up, still made mistakes, but I owned up to it. And he, as a man, was able to look at me and say, you know what? You took responsibility. I'm with that. You know what I'm saying? That's the age that you at right now. The age where that transition has to happen. Like, yo, after maybe a year after, how old are you now? Yeah, by 15, by 14. By 14, I didn't have to, me and my parent, we ain't had no major arguments or anything like that. Like, got my last spanking at 12, you know what I'm saying? My last physical altercation with my father that wasn't like competition when I was like 13, maybe. Like, once we really got that understanding, all he wants is my best. They want respect. You know what I'm saying? If I say I'm going to be back by a certain time, or I say I'm going to do something, do that. If I mess up, own up to it. That's really not that hard. And as you get older, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, dang, man, I was bucking the system on that. Man, I ain't even had no bills then. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't even looking after nobody else. I wasn't even like, value this time. You know what I'm saying? It could be a very pleasant, beautiful last 4 years in somebody else's household. You know what I mean? Because it get real once you on your own, bro. It get real once you got to be responsible. You have no idea until you leave how much other people were doing for you.
It's so ghetto.
You know what I mean? You have no idea until you are outside of that household, outside of your mother's protection, her cloak of protection, to realize how much she was protecting you. And it's like, just because you don't realize it yet, be thankful anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like understand that when it comes to like your parents and certain people in your life that are always there for you, they fighting battles on your behalf that you can't even see yet. You know what I mean? They interceding on your behalf against demons that you don't even know exist yet. Like, you know, if you know how many nights your mother was up praying on your behalf, like we owe them that grace. We owe them that reverence, that respect, that, you know, that's what we owe to them. My father, I say it like this. I've been the major breadwinner in my family for the last 10 years almost. My father has house rules. I still to this day obey every single one of them. I built that damn house. You feel what I'm saying? I built that house. Ain't no such thing as like, yo, if as long as you under my, technically you under my roof. If we really getting, you know, but that respect, that reverence, that understanding of there is no me without years of sacrifice. Everything that you wanted in life, you said, all right, I'm gonna put this on the back. My father had dreams that were so much bigger than me, but I became his dream. You know what I'm saying? So knowing that, every single parent in this room will probably be able to say the same thing. They wanted so much for themselves, selfishly. We wanted so much for ourselves, but once we have kids, that really doesn't matter anymore. It's about what you can have. I want you to have everything I never could have. So yeah, that for me, I think that the more that we have those conversations and they're actually able, like, and to piggyback on the vulnerability thing, actually, like, for the first time, probably for the first time in his life, like, I cried in front of my son recently, like, and I'm talking not like a pretty cry, like I was sobbing, like I was kind of inconsolable, and I don't think that he had ever, he wasn't prepared for that. He wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, but him seeing me in that state did something in him that I wasn't prepared for. You know what I mean? And now, since that moment, our exchanges have been much more honest and open. You know what I'm saying? Like him seeing me in that standpoint, I think took away some of the fear that he might have had of breaking down in that same way around me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my father to see me in this way and tell me I had to toughen up or what, you know what I'm saying? Right. But seeing me inconsolable in that way and knowing that it wasn't because of anything else other than I wanted what was best for him. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times I feel like we try to hide that from our kids. Yeah, we'll go in the room. You know what I'm saying? My father would do that. He would go in the room by himself and
have his,
you know what I mean, have his whole, you know, he's spanking me, telling me, you know, I'm angry, blah, blah, blah. And he going and he's crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, had I known, and that's the thing, had I known that I was hurting him in that way, like the spanking really didn't do much for me.
Right.
But when I knew that I hurt him in that way, that was what
that made you feel bad.
That crushed me.
Yeah.
Because he's my hero.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you didn't want to disappoint him.
Right.
Yeah. Like being bad was one thing, but disappointment is different. Yeah.
I'll take anger over disappointment any day of the week, yo. Like hate me, like fight me, like berate me, but don't look at me with that. Oh, just Yeah. And even apologize. Like, yo, I apologize to my kids. That's something that my father never did. That's a step forward that I've taken from my parents. My parents gave me so many things, but completely unable to admit when they're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm wrong. You know what I mean? And I'm not wrong a lot, but I'm wrong often. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't always have great days. Some days I'm a little bit abrasive. Some days I'm not as present as I would like to be. You know what I'm saying? And when I realize that in the moment, my kid comes over and they show me this beautiful drawing that they've made, and I'm like, yo, I'm doing it. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? That wasn't for you. Let me sit with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not always right away. Sometimes it's like an hour later, and I'm like, yo, you were the asshole back then. Like, you need to, because my thing is, I'm not gonna let anybody else walk over you. So how do I, as your parent, set the precedent by walking all over you?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just because you're my child doesn't mean like you're not still deserving of respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, I demand respect from you, but you deserve it from me as well. You know what I mean? So like, that's where I'm at with it. I want to model these things and not just say, all right, I want to do this or I want to be this. I'm going to be as close to this as I can be. And hopefully I got enough real people around me where they're holding me accountable to that. Like, if Sam see me slipping, she going to say something. If Tiff sees me slipping, she going to say something. If Kat or you or anybody else would have seen me slipping, I would expect y'all to say something. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, how we all do a better job.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that, like, I want to see us normalize that. Like,
absolutely.
Like, me and Pip probably spend more time talking about our kids than anything else.
Right.
And if we can't talk about that kind of stuff, if we can't talk about how we raising families, how we building businesses together, how we enriching it, like, what are we wasting? Point? Like, yo, what are we talking? Point? What am I talking sports with you for? Like, I don't care. Like, you know, we can talk sports all day, but we can't really talk about anything that actually matters. Like, that's where I want to see us.
What do you want to add?
I have a question to your viewpoint on, I guess, political leadership. So, you know, we can talk about your hypothetical mayoral. I think that, you know, you expressed an opinion that a lot of potential people that I would say could potentially bring like on code leadership into politics in the city have expressed where it's like, nah, not me, because they'll pull out dirt on me, or by the time I get there, I'll have to like sell out myself and sell out my people. So,
no, I'm not selling anybody out, but that's essentially what I'm talking about. Like, all right, for example, we were able, and this is with the story becoming national about the schools, right? Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, given what you are saying, and at the same time that, you know, you want to be in a position to help groom the next like mayor, the next like whatever like leader comes out of Baltimore. At what point in time does that dynamic change to where either this kingmaker type of dynamic is gone, you don't have to like sell yourself out or sell your people out to sit in that seat, or people who maybe are, you know, right now on the scene and they can be on code with their leadership, decide that they're gonna like shake things up and like step into the arena.
Here's the thing. I actually believe that we're there. I believe that, like, I really I have no desire to run for office for the reason that I laid out. But if I wanted to run, I could. You know what I'm saying? I could have a successful campaign. I don't think that I would win. You know what I'm saying? But no. But I think that we're at the point where it would be a tight race. You know what I'm saying? But whoever that person is need to be passionate about politically doing those things. I'm passionate about the grassroots stuff. The political stuff makes me want to fight people. You know what I'm saying? It's so much theater. I know these people in real life. I know you don't believe what you're voting for. I have a problem sitting next to you or sitting across from you and dancing this little dumbass dance that we have to dance publicly, knowing how you really feel about this issue. I have no desire to play that game. But there are people that do. We need to be grooming them for that position. You know what I'm saying? I'm not speaking as far as saying that I believe that it's impossible that a person like that can win. It would be incredibly hard, but we need the right person. We don't just need a good person. We really need the right person. Because a lot of well-intentioned people, you know what I mean, ended up doing more harm than good. And I think that a lot of people, even folks that we don't necessarily consider to be great politicians, I believe that, I can say this. I believe that Jack Young means well. You know what I mean? I believe that his heart is in the right place. Do I believe that everything that he's done has been a reflection of that? No. But I believe that his heart is in the right place. I believe Brandon's heart is in the right place. You know what I mean? I believe Sheila's heart was in the right place. You know what I'm saying? So there are different people and just because I believe that your heart is in the right place doesn't mean I believe in your leadership. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because you're a good person doesn't make you a great leader. It won't make you a great mayor, a great city council president. And those are things that we just got to be very clear and honest about, even when we're looking for people to groom. Because there'll be certain people that we want to groom and say, oh man, this kid is brilliant. They should be the next mayor. No, they shouldn't. They can't talk publicly. You know what I mean? They don't have that presence that makes people want to follow. They would be a great city council member. They will possibly be a great judge or a great defense attorney or something.
Some other civic engagement.
Right. So knowing what we're grooming certain people for, and you know what I mean, like all of those things, and you learn those things as you're grooming people, right? Because you might start off with the same group of talented kids that you say, I don't know what each of these kids need to be, but they're going to be something. And throughout that process, you might feel like one person is geared more towards the courts. You might feel like another person is geared more towards grassroots organizing. You might feel like another person is a legislative policy person. You know what I mean? But you only learn that by learning the kids, getting to know them. And they have to want it.
That part.
We can't. We were just in an Uber over here. We were just in a car with somebody that was telling us about they were divorced from their husband and they had the kids and the kids wanted to go with her. And the husband was a business owner, and the kids, like, they grew up working in the business with the pops. He wanted to give the business to the kids. None of them wanted it. They don't want that for themselves. They want a different path. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, that's an element of it too. You don't want to be forcing somebody into a space that they don't want to go into. So all of those things factor and they matter. You know what I mean? But everybody has a place that they belong, though. And that's why I feel like that's a good model for us to be looking at, because in that model, all of these kids will end up where they need to be. You know what I'm saying? But without a model like that, they might still get there, but they won't have that blueprint of the direct pathway. You feel what I'm saying? We can make sure that they get with every person and organization they need to get the site-based experience to be able to go into the space with some legs under them. You know what I mean? Right.
Be able to talk the talk.
So that's where I think that we're there now, but I think that we still, in spite of us being in a place where the climate is ready for it, like, we still need to be extremely strategic in how we try to go about implementing it. Anybody else?
He looked like he wanted to follow up.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
I'll just follow up that with saying, given everything that you said and everything that you've written, what's your sense of where Baltimore may potentially be 10, 15 years from now, just in general?
We could go one of two ways. Actually, no. it's a bunch of different ways that we could go.
Right.
But I think that there's a fork in the road of the pathways that we're headed down. And even after that fork, there are other forks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of those forks is headed the direction of DC, which we will never completely be, which is like, you know, the completely gentrified. You can be in DC and think that you're in Europe somewhere. You know what I mean? The way it doesn't even look like the same place it was 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So we could be that, or we could actually be the chocolate city that DC used to be. Something closer to not what we are now, because we will never be this in perpetuity. You know what I mean? Like, changes will continue. The improvements in certain areas will continue. The decay in others will continue until we decide to stop it ourselves. I see private enterprise continuing to get bigger. I see institutions like Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland Medical Center to continue to clear out as much pathway for themselves as possible. Morgan's starting to jump in there, which I actually do think is a positive thing. I like the fact that they've purchased that Lake Clifton space, and I'm anxious to see what they're gonna bring in terms of resources and opportunity with that. But also I think that private enterprise in the terms of like Black entrepreneurship is also gonna continue to balloon. But again, just like the earlier point we touched on with a lot of the gentrification happening in Baltimore actually happening from Black folks. You know what I mean? Like, I think that some of those not all skin folk are kinfolk. So some of that entrepreneurship is going to be very great for the communities that need more of it. And some of it is actually going to make that pot a little bit more crowded from the standpoint of people fighting over the same scraps. But I think that if we can actually, and the reason why I'm trying to be intentional with both of these projects is I feel like we're at a moment right now where if a lot of our grassroots organizations and independent entities can actually start to come together under the same umbrellas and combine our struggle is already combined, but our organizing isn't combined. Right. So if we can actually start organizing together without the petty, without everybody just wanting to be the name that everybody sees on it. If more of us can adopt the mindset of just saying, doesn't matter whose name's on it, we're involved, right, and we're trying to see this going. You know what I'm saying? I think that we can actually start to build towards what Atlanta is doing right now and what other cities like that. I see that for us as a possibility, but not if we don't get more organized with how we're trying to do things, because the entities that we're fighting against are very organized. And that's what worries me. You know what I mean? The fact that our opposition is a lot more organized than we are. And we don't seem to be prioritizing getting as organized as we need to be the way I would like to see us. And I think that the more we can have intentional conversations and intentional movements that bring all of those things together and say, all right, this is what we're responsible for. This is what you're responsible for. This is what you're responsible for. In 6 months, we want to see this happen, and this happen. Like, I think that that's where we need to be right now. But I think that we're at a point that we can, if we get enough people that are speaking the same language, we can do it.
Folks got to get on code.
Indeed.
Okay?
Indeed. Huh? Ava is on code. We're not on her code right now. That's right. What she said.
She said, I'll let you talk
for about. Oh, man.
She tied. So, anybody else? Any last thoughts? You look like you want to say something. No? Okay. Would you call him Piff?
Yeah.
Piff, you look like you wanted to say something. No? Okay. All right. And so, Aaron, did you have any?
Nah, man. I mean, look, I know we we done had a long-winded discussion. I hope it was fruitful for those of you that attended. I really appreciate you guys coming out on a Tuesday.
Yes.
You know, could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. I want to thank and appreciate you guys for that. And yeah, man, I want to see this continue to expand, and I want to see not just the discussions, but the actions that need to follow become something that we all really start to get on board with. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you all. Thanks for coming out. God bless and good night.
Absolutely.
I bid you adieu.
Is this mine? My brother, thank you. Yeah, man. Oh man, you got the proof copy. This was the original.
We got some t-shirts, we got mugs, we got
443.
you get a bookmark with your first purchase. So whichever one you want. Okay. Okay, mug.
416 number.
My guy.
Oh,
Appreciate you coming out, man.
We got that too.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
How's that going?
Good. Like, got it down tomorrow.
Yeah, those are
Ready?
also
You ready?
Good.
Definitely a safe, bro. I appreciate it.
Oh, yes, sir.
No, I gotta get the sign, yo.
Oh, I never signed that. My bad, man.
Where's my? I'm about to have a strong ready to the ladies. Expecting to get.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, man. Look, man.
For 10, y'all know.
I told him, right? I can't hug. We can't hug each other no more, man.
Oh man.
She ended up getting pregnant.
You're not the baby no more.
So,
You're not the baby.
She already not
So
too.
I got to put some on our website. Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
Is that all right? So I just need some basic credit card information. And what I'm doing is I'm literally just on our website right now.
Oh.
So I'm processing the purchase as if you were ordering online.
Do you want me to do it?
No, I can do it for you. I can just enter it for you. We just had to kind of adapt because I had two events the same day.
Second, you gonna have to teach me how to play. Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Where's your joint at, bro?
I'm going down here.
What am I? Oh man.
What's the zip code?
212.
All right, awesome. Appreciate you, man. So it'll go to our website and then we'll process it.
Appreciate you, my
Here we go.
brother.
Yeah, everybody gets a bookmark with their first purchase. Yeah, appreciate it.
Do the intro. I read part of the first chapter, but I like the tone. The tone.
Yeah,
like,
man. It's conversation. You know what I mean? I really just wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be one of them things where I was trying to like position myself as some kind of dictator.
Yeah. You stated that plenty times too.
Yeah,
I'm like, yo,
this is I think something that this is my.
Yeah, you kind of cry.
It's helped me to kind of really be balanced.
All right, cool. So you got the sticker, the mug, the book, stickers on it. Okay. Thank you so much. I know we're doing a little weird, like we're too much.
We can come closer together and be more intentional.
I can't actually even do that, so I appreciate it.
So, I've never played those, so you just have to explain to me what the rules are. I've never played that. Uno is something that I know that. That's easy. Yes. I'm cool with that. They already have Oh, you talking about
Like if it's going around.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah. He just know he about to get me up out of here. Like, yo, he saying this with way too much confidence.
Alright, you're good to go. And just so you know,
Plus 25 dollars.
We're just right
Yo,
over
what in the world?
And it just went around and kept
Yeah,
going
that's
around
true.
and kept moving around.
Oh, you get one with your first purchase with us. You get a free one. Yeah. You get a bookmark?
And they were mad at everybody.
Everybody gets a bookmark with their first purchase.
Everybody.
That's free.
They just dropped the card. Every time.
Is one of these from the person that Candace was talking about? The bookmarks that you know somebody who's out.
No, these are just our bookmarks. Yeah. Her bookmarks are $12.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess I'm gonna come over there.
Okay. So you
just gonna bend my face up like that?
Meals at our table, you know what
How
I
you
mean?
feel?
Like, not everybody is coming.
Pen wasn't enough for you to get it.
And what's the postal code for this, Jim?
28560.
And I just mentioned today.
Hold up, did y'all already know each other? Oh, wow.
And then I feel like I met you before in like an entrepreneurship thing.
I actually met you a bunch of times.
I don't know why I'm surprised. Small as Baltimore is, man. Like, yo, it's not even 3 degrees of separation. Here it's like 2, 1. Right?
It's less than one.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Huh?
Oh, thank you.
I would have said that one.
What were you trying to get? I was working.
What? Where? Oh, sure.
And are you comfortable saying Jason plus 2 and plus 1?
You said make it out to who?
JOSIE.
Ava.
Okay.
Ava.
You
said Josie,
No,
Josi.
it does not. We don't do anything with your information. Of course, of course.
Ava, stop being so weird.
What's the postal code?
I'm gonna make sure there's
There's one of each of my books on this table right here. If you wanted any of them, just let me know which one.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Whatever's most convenient. I can pretty much accept anything. Huh? 13 cards. Yeah, cash app is cool.
Did you get a book?
I didn't grab it yet.
Love you, bro. Huh? Probably like 30 minutes. I'll be but we can wait until tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be all right tonight.
Hello.
Oh,